Welcome to Lesson 5 for the Ready Book for 8th grade. In today's lesson, we will be analyzing categories. What is a category? A category is a group of things that have something in common. So imagine you're going to go to the store and you're going to buy a DVD player. And you see that the store sells all sorts of things, such as televisions, computers, clothing, furniture, linens, toys, books, and so on. Now, what can you do to try to find the DVD player that you're trying to purchase? Well, first you can go and ask a salesperson, or you can even look at a store directory to find out where all the electronics are sold. In a store, products are arranged in different categories. For example, electronics, foods, clothing, hardware, etc. Now, why is it important for us to arrange these things into categories? Well, when we arrange them into categories, we can find them easily. Authors may organize information, especially in informational text, to compare and contrast individuals, ideas, or events. They may use categories to make connections or distinctions clearer to the readers. Sometimes the categories are concrete, and sometimes they are abstract. Analyzing connections and distinctions by thinking about categories is important because it helps you as a reader better understand the relationship among concepts in a text. So let's look at the worksheet. It says a category is a collection of things or ideas that have characteristics in common. For example, hip-hop, country, pop, rock, and classical are all categories of music. If someone tells you that their favorite song is a country song, you can figure out that the song has in common with other songs. So it says study the images below. What are some categories you can put these technologies into? So we see a couple of images. We have headphones, a cell phone, a calculator, a microscope, an MP3 player, and an email inbox. Now you can probably put these technologies into many different categories. So let's practice this. Let's look at the chart below. It says the chart below puts the technologies into different categories. Complete the chart. So in the category on the left, it says helps you with schoolwork, helps you listen to music, and then they left the category blank for us to try to fill in the third one. So looking at the top pictures, we have to figure out which of these 6 objects helps us with schoolwork. So looking at it, I can say, okay, well, the calculator and the microscope definitely help me with schoolwork. I could even debate that the headphones help me with schoolwork if I'm doing online learning. So I'm going to put calculator, microscope, and headphones. And let me go ahead and change the font so it sticks out a little better. Then the next category is that it helps me listen to music. Well, I can see that the headphones and the MP3 player most likely will help me listen to music. And the technology in the last category is a cell phone and an email. Well, I know that cell phones are used to communicate, and I know that email can also be in use for communication as well. So I'm going to think that my category they want me to come up with is that it helps me to communicate. So helps you communicate with others. In informational text, authors categorize their ideas to show similarities and differences between individuals, ideas, or events. Sometimes these text features such as chapter titles, section headings, and charts state these categories clearly. Other times, however, an author leaves the categories less clear. When this happens, the reader must infer what the categories are, usually by looking for the similarities and differences between ideas. So let's move on to part 2. It says, read the beginning of this technical account about analog and digital telephones. So, Data Dilemma, Analog versus Digital by Javier Moreno. Today's telephones operate on one of 2 systems. The first is analog and is most often associated with landline phones. The second type is digital and is used with smartphones. Analog and digital have different ways of transmitting sound. For example, analog takes a sound wave, such as your voice, and turns it into an electrical signal that is transferred across a phone wire. These phones are less expensive and produce a richer sound quality. But even cordless analog phones have a limited range because they are tied to a base. Digital phones break down your voice into a binary code. The receiver assembles this computer language into sound, so there is never any static or scratches. Smartphones can go anywhere within their coverage zone, but the strength of the signal and the coding and decoding of your voice can sometimes make the sound jumpy. So it says explore how to answer this question. What are some of the advantages and disadvantages of each type of phone? First, make a table that will help you categorize details as advantages and disadvantages. Then, identify the most important details from the text to put into each category. Now, looking back, the title gives me a clue that the author is going to make comparisons between analog and digital phones. As I reread the text, I can look for advantages and disadvantages of each type of phone. Now, I read in the text that analog phones are less expensive and produce a richer sound than digital phones. Now, these are advantages of analog phones. However, analog phones are tied to a base and have a limited range. So those are disadvantages. So I'm going to go ahead and put that into the chart. So the type of system we have was the analog phone, and some of the advantages that I had listed was that it was less expensive and it produced a richer sound. Some of the disadvantages I read were that it was limited in range and it was tied to a base. Now, the next type of system that we were discussing was a digital phone. And the advantages that they listed was that there was no static and you can go anywhere in coverage zone. The disadvantages, however, that we had listed was that they can sometimes sound jumpy. Okay, so this is the end of part 1. Go ahead and watch the video for part 2 to see the rest of the guided instruction and the rest of the guided practice for lesson 5, 8th grade ready.